Firstly, thank you all for taking out time and choosing to attend our session. My name is Gaurav Dixit. I head automation and AI development for our business unit managed services. I have with me my colleague Kai, who is driving AI innovation as part of our group analytics function. So the telecom networks of tomorrow are going to look very different from the networks of today. With the imminent advent of 5G technologies, the use cases which we see, the telecom networks of today are used to connect people, video use cases. The telecom networks of tomorrow are going to connect not only people, but things. They will be smart factories, immersive video. Thereby, the requirements on these networks in order to enable these kind of use cases are going to be very different. So what is needed is a fundamental shift in the way we design, build, and operate telecom networks of future. So let me try to show how we at Ericsson think, and hopefully this will also help with the post-lunch session slumber.
Imagine every piece of knowledge we've gathered over the years, organized, distributed, evolved, collected to augment our human ingenuity, for our engineers and customers to elevate experiences over next-generation networks. Imagine vast amounts of data translated into action within seconds, a seamless support that feeds knowledge back to the system in real time. Imagine peeking into the future, see patterns preceding network disturbances, and prevent them from happening. Imagine zero risk to test implementation and procedures on entire networks to better understand anomalies and behavior. Imagine new possibilities, business opportunities, monitored performance, and optimized network services. Imagine the power of AI, machine learning, and the future of data-driven predictive operations. While most just imagine, at Ericsson, we do.
So in order to do what we did, we as a group across Ericsson came together and decided, okay, where do we want to do? How do we want to actually do it? And then we realized it's not very different how we have been doing since past 140 years plus. Like, we always kind of lead the pack in terms of adopting new technologies, making them part of our portfolio, transforming ourselves, thereby bringing these benefits to our customers. So this is a kind of a vision statement or a wanted position from Ericsson perspective. Like, we want to successfully deploy these new automation and AI technologies across our product and services portfolio. And how do we do it? What you see on the picture board right now is the blueprint for a very high-level blueprint of like the 5G architecture. We don't have the point of view that it's a monolithic end-to-end AI stack which we come forward with. What we have taken a cautious decision as is that of a federated AI across the product and services suite. And all of that, like intelligence embedded in each of the different layers, from billing charging to the OSS management orchestration, to the access, to the cloud core, to the services. And all of these work together as one logical entity in order to derive the maximum benefit out of the 5G networks and thereby meet the customer expectations of supreme customer experience. But if automation and AI is the answer, what is the problem we are trying to solve? So everything starts and ends with the customer. What we want to achieve and are focused on achieving is superior end consumer experience, the green box which you see. How will that be achieved is by having state-of-art network performance, right? A state-of-art network performance will lead to new revenues by leveraging maximum value of the new use cases enabled by 5G, which will in turn also bring kind of operational and relentless efficiency by reducing OPEX by adoption of such technologies. We have been on this journey of adoption of these technologies across our portfolio and offering it to customers since a couple of years now. And there are certain learnings which we have done in this journey, right? So if you focus on the top left corner of this, right, Everything, I mean, data is to these AI and automation technologies what air is to humans. These technologies can't do anything without access to the right data, the right quality of the data, the right contractual rights of this, the management of it, the governance of it. Everything starts on the top left corner. So that is something which we are now, I mean, as a group, kind of laying the foundation for with the right kind of initiatives. Then comes the next, this data has to sit somewhere. So there has to be right decisions on the applications and platforms, cloud-based platforms which help us offer flexible, scalable services and offerings. That's the top half. But believe me, like as technically bent people, we get to kind of, there's a tendency of like getting hung up on these top shiny technology pieces. I mean, based on our experience, that is at max 40% of the effort. Very important, but just 40% of the effort. 60% of the effort of this iceberg, majority bulk, is on the bottom layer, which talks of processes and people, because that is the change management effort. I mean, imagine like today, for example, someone is measured on the number of trouble tickets he's solving sitting now. With the new technologies coming, I mean, the entire aim is that there will be no trouble tickets coming. So there is an entire change of revamp of the process, how people work, how people are measured, how they are evaluated, so on and so forth. That's just one example. And then comes the people and competence. These kind of technology shifts require absolutely new competences. People need to be reskilled. There has to be a culture change. There has to be a vision of questioning that, okay, it cannot be done the same way as it has been done since ever. So that is where the majority of the effort and effort goes in this journey. So how are we kind of tackling this? There are three fundamental pillars on which we have like applied these technologies. As the session topic or theme says, like applied AI, this is how we have applied and bringing it to life. The first one is like on the portfolio, like adoption of all these technologies into the data ecosystem and business. The second is on Ericsson Research or the technology leadership. I'll talk of all of these further. And then the third one is like, how do we bring it to life, the competence, right? Like, where do we have the data science competence currently? How do we tackle that? So talking of the first one, you have seen this picture. This is the blueprint of 5G. I mean, we have AI embedded across our products and portfolio. So if you see, for example, on the billing and charging, on what we call BSS, business support systems, right? We are making it like data-driven predictive customer care, for example, to help understand a bit more. For example, the ambition is that we understand typical customer behavior. Okay, this guy is like very sports fan. There is a Champions League or Cricket World Cup coming up. Based on his data plan, I see that he will not get the best benefit and customer experience what he has. Let me proactively kind of recommend something to him which will help him get superior customer experience. And all this done is a data-driven way. That's one example. I mean, 5G, I can't talk enough about it, coming from Ericsson, is like it's fundamentally changing. There is no typical line now that 5G is at the edge or at the core or the data center. Given the virtualization and the 5G technology, it's gonna be all across. It's going to be extremely dynamic. The orchestration is going to change from centralized to individual nodes, and so on and so forth. So what we do is like data-driven dynamic management of traffic and capacity, for example, is possible here. I mean, we can assure, using the previous data, that if there is an emergency vehicle going, then we can assure a particular network slice with the assured QoS based on, okay, this is an emergency vehicle, this is the commute it is taking, this is how the network looks in this path of commute. Let's assure that it gets the best QoS so that the telemetry of telemedicine keeps happening while in the critical minutes before the patient reaches the hospital. Similarly, for example, for cloud core and the cloud infrastructure pieces, we have pieces building. And then the last piece on the services, I mean, there is a need for, and we are already on that way of moving from incident-driven reactive operations to a data-driven proactive operations. So we not only focus on fixing the problems and reducing the mean time to repair after the problem has occurred, but actually nip the problem in the bud by analyzing the data and predicting that this is going to happen, this is the root cause, this is the recommended action, and let's actuate it in advance so that the error alarm even never comes to us because the problem never happened. We fixed it proactively. So the second pillar, you remember, this was the portfolio piece which we talked about, like the business piece. The second important pillar of this, how we are making this, bringing this to realizing and applying AI, is like the Ericsson Research. This is the place where 2G, 3G, and 4G were invented. We have like dedicated 750 researchers in total working on this. Out of those, 100 plus are working on just AI-related technologies. There are 600 AI patents which we have in. So this is a brain house which we kind of tap into for creative ideas and solving problems with customers. The third is the Center of Excellence or the Global AI Accelerator. I mean, this is how we actually bring things to life, right? So we have talked to a portfolio, we offer that to the customer, we work with research, but this is where the real capacity comes in. So we are building a Center of Excellence of 300 data scientists. It's really far in progress, kind of a plan to be done by year end. And this is where we kind of tap into the competence to scale the solutions which we work together with research. How does all this work together? So first of all, everything starts with the customer, as I said. We work in a very use case driven, customer centric, fast prototyping manner. We either propose to a customer, sit down with them, what are the pain points, understand together with research, how can those pain points be solved using one of the patents they have or one of the ideas they are thinking of, or can they think about it. We test it with the customer within the business unit, and when it comes to realization of scaling it, we kind of tap into our Global AI Accelerator, the Center of Excellence of data science experts, which we are building up in order to go and scale it. So it's a all this happens in like move fast, fail, but fail fast, so that you can again come up with new. What we have achieved by doing this, now this is not entire Ericsson, this is my home, managed services. So I'm only showing managed services related customer engagements which we have had in 2018. So you see a footprint of global engagements which we have done. Almost all of them are either already production or very close to production as we are speaking. And you can see the breadth of the engagements. Some of the use cases which we have done, like managed services has 3 arms. One is telecom operations, like the telco gear operations. Then the IT operations, where the billing, charging, data center operations happen. And third is like the network design and optimization. And this is not the exhaustive list. We have, because of lack of infrastructure, we have only these many on the slide. But we have use cases all across. I can't go through all, but might pick up field dispatch optimization in the blue network operations box. I mean, when we engaged with a customer, we understood that, customer was, what is field dispatch optimization, firstly, for non-telco background? So field dispatch optimization is when we received the alarm, created a trouble ticket, tried to fix it remotely, it didn't get fixed, so we issue a work order, and then someone puts a field services hat on, gets into a truck, digs a trench or fixes it on site somewhere, right? That's a field dispatch. It's pretty costly affair. In US, each field dispatch costs $900. When we met a customer, we realized that 10% of the field dispatches which the customer were doing were false dispatches. They were not needed, right? We evaluated the data, and now we can predict 9 out of those 10 field dispatches which were not needed. So imagine the bottom line impact. This is like direct bottom line impact for the customer. Each field dispatch causing 900. There are millions of field dispatch which happen every year, and then we can predict or say that 9 of those 10 are not needed. So just imagine the bottom line impact. And the way we work or develop these use cases is very logical. It's like a logical tree. The next step, if you are not able to do that, like, okay, you predict which is not needed, but there are some field dispatches which are needed. What do you do with that? Okay, if your field dispatch needs to happen, does someone really need to climb the tower? Predict that with certainty that, okay, this guy doesn't need to climb the tower, thereby creating more kind of savings. If he has to climb the tower, the next logical branch is, what equipment does he need so that he climbs there and doesn't have to come down to kind of change the equipment which he didn't carry, because every bit matters here. That's some example. For interest of time, I would not go through all of those, but there are equally interesting examples on others. Now I will request my colleague Kai to share on how we are applying these technologies for our internal use cases and optimization of how we work.
Sure. Thank you, Gaurav. So internally within Ericsson, we're applying an automation toolbox. So what this is actually a combination of AI and machine learning technologies that we've been using across our business. The first one is robotic process automation. We have implemented hundreds, in fact, of software robots across Ericsson, all across the board, from repetitive tasks, invoice processing, intercompany processing. We're using these across our business. We've also included natural language processing as well. So when we have automated dialogue at help desks, where we have text that needs to be analyzed, we've been using that. In addition, we're using low-code point-and-click software. So instead of Java and C++ and similar tools, we're using point-and-click software tools that put together an application in a matter of hours instead of a matter of weeks. In addition, we're using computer vision, so purchase orders, optical text that needs analysis. We're using all of those across the Ericsson business. Some of the specific use cases we're using here, intercompany transfers for robotic process automation, price sheet calculations. Whenever we have bulk data in HR that needs to be transferred, we're doing that using robotic process automation. And when we need to create invoices for our suppliers as well, we're using robotic process automation for those tools. And we've implemented these across the whole Ericsson business. We've also implemented natural language processing for help desks when there's a conversation happening there, and also when there are contracts that need to be analyzed, and there's text within those contracts. And any sort of tracking of T's and C's and deviations of those terms and conditions, we're using natural language processing and AI in those spaces. For the low-code, point-and-click software, when we need to put a software layer for processes that are occurring within our business, if we want to track auditing, for example, we can actually have that software up and running in a matter of hours instead of a matter of weeks. In addition, our computer vision, when we're analyzing purchase orders and pulling out text from different parts of a purchase order in a slightly unstructured way, we're using that technology as well in Ericsson. So this is really internally, a lot of our operations and processes have become a lot more efficient as a result of this. And some of the key learnings that we've had out of this year on robotic process automation, for example, is you have to build the business case as you go along. You can't sort of stop and say, what's the business case, and then go off and do it. You sort of have to discover it as you go along, because the end users are learning the process as they develop it as well. You have to pick a third-party vendor and stick with it. They're always jostling for position at the top. So if you now try and change that midway through the process, that won't get you anywhere. Pick somebody, stick with it, and just run it right through. And the business unit has to own the process. They have to be really involved from the beginning, and they have to own it end to end. Otherwise, if it's just IT or technology, the process falls apart. For natural language processing, what we're finding is that the current customer logs of data that you're tracking are just not sufficient. The AI needs a lot more data. So a lot of your logs that you already have right now will actually not be that useful when you're applying AI. Try to focus on more structured conversations. So a good example is if it's a very specific thing like a password reset, the computer can really pick up very clearly what those steps are. If it's in a contract, contract termination clause, contract end date, default clauses in a contract, very specific structured parts of the data make it much easier for the AI to work with it as well. And you have to use your company's actual data, because it's language specific to your company and it's language specific to your processes as well. So you have to train it on your data and integrate it with your internal systems as quickly as possible. I'm going to hand over back to my colleague.
Hey, thank you, Kai. So just wrapping up, I mean, this is not a silver bullet or a destination, right? So this is a journey, and we have been on this journey since a couple of years now, right? It starts with scripting, to closed-loop runbook, to kind of human-guided automation, and I can with confidence say that we kind of mainstream machine learning in our portfolio 2018. You can see the use cases and the engagements. Now is the process of industrialization of those use cases which is happening, and machine learning. Now we have set our target in terms of the next year, we'll be focusing a lot on machine reasoning. While machine learning is automation of task, machine reasoning is automation of knowledge, human-like knowledge. So we are on that journey, and we have taken steps together with research and other stakeholders within the company on that. And I would like to wrap up with this slide, and again, that the networks and the use cases of tomorrow are going to be very different from today. this is going to need a fundamental shift in the way we design, build, and operate our networks. And based on our activities, I'm confident that we at Ericsson are leading the pack in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.